Welcome, everyone, to Pivotal Change. I am your host, Ryan Conn, and this is a show that is all about leadership and development and helping entrepreneurs, influential people, business owners, all find those couple of things that can help them make that pivotal change in launching them to success. On today's show, we're going to talk a lot about leading change, leading in strategies. We have some advisors with us and consultants, and we're kicking off the night with a great one, a good friend of mine, Chris Papin, who happens to be a very special person because he is both an attorney and a CPA running a law firm and an accounting advisory-based service. So Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Happy to be here, my friend. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And as always, we are bound by a little bit of a time window in between commercial breaks and, of course, the top of the hour. And I kind of want to jump in with an area that you're pretty familiar with because of both your advising and the nature of who you are and what you do. But you've heard a lot of people say that businesses need at least, a couple of people that they can reference. Everybody needs, let's say, a good accountant and a good attorney and a good banker, a good insurance agent, good financial advisor, and maybe some people add another one or two people to that list. But my question is for you, how important is that really for the entrepreneur or the business person, whether they're starting out their business or they're a multi-million, $100 million business? How important is to have those people in their relationships, in their wheelhouse?
From my perspective, it's vital. When you think about these different professions, there's some sort of regulation, licensing, something extra that goes with each. And I refer to each of these roles as strategic partners. Oftentimes, people kind of tease either the attorney joke or the banking joke here, but oftentimes businesses can't do businesses in the way they want to without that type of partnership, particularly starting with banks. If you're a startup business owner, lending is almost 100% in your future. So I think as you go through and think about the roles that each of these different advisors play, there's perspective that you can gain. But most importantly, all of those roles have typically hundreds, if not thousands of clients that they represent. Whereas a business owner is maybe done 1-2 businesses in their lives. So you can pull from the experience of all of these different businesses and business relationships that these strategic partners offer and benefit your business. Now, the one I get all the time, as both an attorney and CPA is, well, which do you do most of? And at the end of the day, if you're doing it right, it's not an either or, unless perhaps there's a litigation-based claim. It's really about sitting at the table with your clients and advancing conversations that maybe have consequences that result in lending or result in taxes, or maybe you need to paper up the agreement in an appropriate way so that everybody is clear about expectations. Insurance plays a role here. Financial advisors have a very different perspective about how they're going to execute on perhaps your goals and ambitions based on your comfort level with investing, or maybe not. I tease folks about all the time, you can invest in retirement by putting cash in a coffee can and burying it in the backyard. That's your choice. Maybe not the best mathematical choice, but that is your choice. So each of these roles is again, it's vital, it's important. And I think if you don't have these in your life, at least having a relationship to where you're 1 or 2 phone calls away, like a small business owner in the very beginning may say, I don't need an attorney. I don't have those kind of issues. Not yet, but you'll cross that road at some point, and having that relationship when you need it is probably more important than shopping on the phone for the guy or gal that can serve your need as it pops up or in an emergency. COVID was a beautiful example. Lending is hard to get. In some of those specialty lending programs like PPP, ERTC, you needed strategic partners to help you execute on that. So there's my 2 cents, good, bad, or ugly.
Well, I like your 2 cents. And again, I think coining the phrase strategic partner is really important. You said they are vital. And I'm going to put a little bit of a layman's term on here. You don't know what you don't know. And you made the emphasis of, hey, this attorney may deal with hundreds or thousands of businesses. And if you get somebody that is in your same industry, well, then they have a depth of experience where you're just scratching the surface and you can draw a lot out of them. You also made a statement about consequences. Well, you could be a very good business person in your industry, and you could really be driving that arrow up and to the right. But if you don't have a good tax planning advisor, there could be consequences, heavy tax burdens, liabilities, and consequences. So I like to try to find somebody, if I can, in a certain area that's a one-stop shop. Like if I need something done with my vehicle, I don't want to get my oil here and my tires there and my engine here. And, maybe I'd like to try to find a one-stop shop. That's almost impossible with what you just said about the various credentials and pedigrees and certifications that these strategic partners need. But you provide a specific benefit is that you actually hold the role of two of these. What specific benefit does a client get in having somebody that can hold two of these credentials in one stop? Could you explain that benefit to us a little bit instead of having to go all places for all different things?
I really like your analogy with the vehicle. Oftentimes the conversation, it's a little bit like the telephone game as you were a kid. Advisor one tells advisor two, and then advisor two tells the client, and then the client tells advisor three. And by the time we get there, we said the sky is blue, and then advisor three heard this guy is glue, and you're going, what? They make no sense. So I'm active into, I actually carry an insurance license for some of the estate planning that we do. So sometimes I claim 2.5. But the message inside of it is, as a business owner, let's say you're a startup. You've got to create an entity. You've got to make an entity choice. You have certain legal requirements that are with that, as well as tax requirements that are all interwoven together. We can do both. If there's some version of exit planning, maybe a buy sell or an untimely death, again, I can kind of do both. So this one-stop shop facilitates some of the tasks that are involved. And then, like we mentioned earlier, these different strategic partners, where maybe I am not a licensed financial advisor, I'm familiar with the concepts, I know what investing strategies are going to be, I'm able to sit at the table, kind of a board of directors type role, and help translate what these other folks are saying to the client. I am notorious for using technical lingo, but then you got to turn around and make it consumable by your client. Because if they don't understand, they're not going to take action. And at the end of the day, taking action is what saves money or mitigates risk or enables the goal setting that the clients are communicating to us.
I like that a lot. I like what you said about translating because there's a lot of technical terms in, I may not be a RIA or financial advisor, but I deal enough with money and tax and consequences and estate planning and retirements to know that you need to ask your financial advisor this specific question, or they gave me an option on how you should invest or start a retirement account, and I need to ask a specific question to them. And if you really get people all in the same working environment, they can talk to each other and understand that I'm going to offer you something that doesn't mess up their plan. And they're going to provide an offering that goes along with your strategy. And we can really start to, I would say, just jive and work together. So let me ask you this question. As far as, let's talk a little bit more about advising your clients on the tax planning and the strategy side, which I know you're one of the leading national experts in that area. How much does the legal backing and the documentation side of things play a role in complementing the two?
So I don't see them different. So sometimes this question can be challenging for me, but I really try to distill it down into steps. To me, there's 3 basic steps. So oftentimes when you make a financial decision, there are financial consequences, and folks understand that. You choose to invest in advertising that yields a result. That's clear on one side. Now, if you don't do your advertising or maybe don't disclose some of the puffery that goes with advertising that is permitted appropriately, you're creating unnecessary risk. People get that extreme on the other side too. Oftentimes they think of risk through insurance first, but there's a role for attorneys. So I like to look through the lens of the cost of compliance.
Oh, okay.
A great example that can pop up here is you can offer guarantees, or you can offer, say, memberships that have certain requirements with them. sometimes those memberships are also regulated by the insurance industry. So navigating the difference between maybe a membership perk or benefit as opposed to offering insurance is the difference between an investigation by the state that no one can afford or wants to go through and do. So
Okay.
even though it's a great idea, and there's lots of opportunity to say, hey, we're in a membership model and there's all of these wonderful benefits, are we running afoul, like you said earlier, of the things we don't know? And that's where really I think I sit differently than other folks. I get the tax side, I get the legal side. There's an overlap that is natural in many of these different roles, but just in particular with these conversations where we can talk about, do you want to take on that risk? Did you know it was a risk? And maybe here are some cost concerns.
Well, let me jump in here real quick, Chris, because this is kind of leading me to what's going to have to be our final question before we roll to commercial. So real quick, kind of 30-second answer on what you said. You're getting into the realm of like, hey, people might not be aware of risks and hazard. If you were going to say to a startup or newer business owner, hey, these are the 2 or 3, give me an example of an area where they step into a hazard, something they're unaware of, that what's one of these areas, maybe one in each realm, that say, hey, here's a common struggle that I see with the startups or the younger entrepreneur types to avoid these or rely on one of these categories of advisors in. Can you give us maybe one from each role?
Yeah, I'm going to bundle them to make it a little bit easier. You need to have something in writing, folks.
Okay.
A lot of people want to do a handshake deal, and there's a lot of online services where you can just click through, but you need terms and conditions. You need to be clear about what your scope is. In especially sometimes with younger generations involved. Hey, I'm just gonna post something on Instagram, for example.
Yeah.
There's a consequence to that. Is it a paid advertisement? You've got to disclose those things.
Right.
So therein lies just kind of a hey, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And do we have a basic set of scope in place to navigate from?
I love it. Great points, Chris. So, in rolling into commercial break here, you are obviously a calculated, intelligent man that I recommend everybody come find to get help from you. So, if somebody wants your help, they say, this is the guy that he clearly gets it. And he wears 2.5 hats. How do they get a hold of you? Where do they find you, Chris?
If first and foremost, I would say go to LinkedIn. We post a lot of free materials. We've got our website, papincpa.com, where you can reach out to my team directly, kind of depending on where you are in your life cycle, pick the path that suits you. But we're always happy to meet new people, develop new relationships, and love the opportunity to serve our community, whether it's local or nationwide.
I love it. Chris, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Everyone else, you stay tuned. We'll be right back after this commercial break for more pivotal change and an ongoing wonderful conversation.